Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We are digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. We'd love to hear back from you. Where did we get it right? Where did we get it wrong? You can do that by leaving a comment on unsilentpodcast.com, or you can go to Rumble or any of the various other social media channels where America gathers to discuss our shared psychosis, which there's a lot of that these days, isn't there?
Yeah, it seems like it. More than our share some years, it seems like.
Yeah, this year in particular, whether you talk about, of course, there's the recent NATO summit. That's fun.
Yeah.
We had the Democrats favored boy Graham Plattner. Probably lost to history, and that's good. Don't look him up, Kenny G. If you're listening to this in the future, he
Yeah.
wasn't a good representation of our time. Well, maybe he was good representation, but not one.
Yeah, I think you can make a pretty good case that he's like the poster child for our time.
Yeah, probably so. Sadly so.
Yeah.
Because he's a work of who knows what. So
As long as you hate the right people, man, you can do just about anything you want.
that's it. Well, I guess it is interesting. It is an interesting commentary on our time that you could have a Nazi tattoo, you could, be abusive to lots of women and to all sorts of ways, and have it well known, and it gets to there's certain lines that then you cross. He crossed the line from being like a serial abuser of women into actual rape, and that's when they dumped him. Other than that, the Democrats were happy to have him hang around. So there's it's an interesting. I hope that kind of boundary at least stays in place, that they don't abolish that boundary. It used to be like during during the Clinton era, and what he was impeached for. Bill Clinton was obviously impeached. He was disbarred and all that, and it was for a consensual thing with Monica Lewinsky in the Oval Office, but it was very untoward. It was very unseemly, and so we made a big mess of it. Now today, that would be like whatever. That's like just a Tuesday. Who cares?
Yeah, but you blazed through the Me Too era. Like we went through this Me Too era where
Yes, yeah,
where and listen, some of the cases in the the perpetrators that they were going after, I'm all for it. I mean,
yeah,
I just like, yeah, Monica Lewinsky was over the age of 18,
yeah.
but she was in a compromised position. There's the
Sure.
president of the United
First
States, a
United
50-year
States,
old
right?
or
Yes. Yeah,
whatever man, and you're like a 22-year-old intern.
yeah.
Like that's not a great place to be.
Oh yeah,
Just like the casting couch, not a great place to be.
yep,
I'm all for, yeah, let's
totally.
rat all those people out.
Oh yeah, but now you could do all of that stuff. And I mean, look how far we've come from Me Too. But Me Too was believe all women, and there was a bunch of women that were lined up against Graham Plattner, and it took the last one that said that he actually raped her. That's what ended up sinking him. So that's again a sign of our times.
Yeah, unfortunately. Speaking of sign of our times, I got a couple things that are fairly interesting. I mean, I guess we'll just quickly note that we're back at war with Iran, I
Oh yeah,
guess. So
another
next
day
week
in
when we get
life.
together, we'll be 163-0. Right now, we're only 159-0. So we'll continue on our Harlem Globetrotter-esque trend with that, I'm sure.
I'm sure, absolutely. Oh my gosh.
Um,
I mean,
I I so last weekend we celebrated our 250th anniversary of our independence from England and or Britain, I guess it was. But I saw a couple things that were just kind of just a I don't even know how to explain this. All right, so I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna show you a quick 10-second clip.
all right.
This will be super fast. But this is one end of the spectrum. I'll share this with you. You can listen. I'm sure you're a fan of Sunny Hostin. I think you watch her
Not
pretty
so
much
much.
every
So
day,
much.
if I
Older,
remember
he's older
correctly.
than you.
you're a big fan. So let's listen to what she has to say here.
Said there are times when I walk into a community and I see American flags all over the community, and I suddenly feel unsafe. Said,
all right, so she walks into the community and she sees American flags and she feels unsafe. All right, so my first question, literally yesterday when I saw this, my first question was, then why do you stay? like, like,
Yeah,
I honestly like you have the means, you have the financial means to live anywhere in the world you
sure.
want.
She's rich.
Um, if you're truly terrified, like why wouldn't you give yourself
Yeah,
the ability to not live like that? And why would you want your children and family to go through? Like, why wouldn't you just go somewhere else?
yeah.
But then you add this. I'm watching a video over here. I won't share a video because it's just a visual thing, and it on an audio podcast wouldn't make any sense. But I'm watching a video of Japan celebrating our 250th anniversary or 250th anniversary in Tokyo with a huge fireworks display. Now, if I remember correctly, I'm not a historical major, but if I remember correctly, that's like the only country that's ever been nuked in the entire
Yeah, we
civil,
nuked them and they're celebrating with
and,
us.
and we did it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We
So
nuked them. They're
a
celebrating.
country we literally nuked twice 80 something years ago
Yeah,
is celebrating our 250th anniversary,
yeah.
and Sunny Hostin gets fearful when she sees American flags. Now, okay, Dave, explain this to me.
Well, there you go again. Explain it to me. Explain the inexplicable. I mean, I look at Japan. We built Japan after World War II into a global economic superpower. I mean, they are, they're one of the seven, I think they're one of the seventh or eighth richest nations on the planet as a result. So I think, yeah, we nuked them and and we, I mean, the plenty of history would suggest that we saved a lot of their lives by taking a fewer of their lives through nuking them. But that's another story altogether. But it is interesting though to see them, and I've seen a number of other countries that have had similar, celebrations of our 250th anniversary. And so, but Sonny Hostin, I mean, come on, how do you explain? Here's the explanation: total performative, totally
Yeah,
performative.
100%.
She's
100%.
just like because what else are you going to do with it? You got to the currency of the day, the currency of the view, is the victim mentality through and through. It's like I got to find something to be victimized about, and that's what it
I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. I believe that was true a few years ago.
is.
I feel like that progressive movement has morphed from we are the victims to now it's our job to punish people.
Mhm.
I think the punishment is now the driver, not the victimhood. What do you think of that?
Interesting. Well, I think that there is there's a subset of the left that's definitely true for. The question is how big is that subset, and are people like Sonny Hostin or Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries, or where is the dividing line of where that group is? Because those are the true revolutionaries, the ones that want to
Yeah.
punish the like the WASPs, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, the males, all this, those the ones that want to exact revenge are probably a pretty, well, I don't know. I would hope that it's a pretty small minority within that larger group, although there will be plenty of people that adopt that language because it's the cool language of the group. So
Yeah.
it could
Yeah,
be.
I don't mean that one has to come at the exclusion of the other. I don't
Yeah,
mean that, but it does feel to me like the Graham Plattner thing is kind of an illustration of that to me. Like
yeah,
he was going to punish the right people, therefore we will overlook some of his forays that we wouldn't approve of
right,
otherwise, until it gets to the point we're talking about literal rape.
right, right.
um, uh, but like the Sunny Hostin thing. Okay, why wouldn't she just go somewhere else? Okay, well, it could be that she's just lying about this stuff, but
Yeah,
that could be.
yeah,
Um, but let's assume she's not. Let's assume she's just straight up telling the truth. Well, where else could she go in the world and live the lifestyle she lives and earn the income she lives?
right. Yeah.
I would argue that
Nowhere.
this is the only place.
Yeah.
Um, where else could she go in the world where people would really care about her opinion on this stuff?
Yes, exactly right. There's no other place.
So
No.
you lose income and you lose influence.
Right.
So you're beholden to this place that provides you this exceptional income and this exceptional amount of influence, and your modality for navigating through that world is to just bash on the places offering
Well,
it,
yeah,
like what?
it's I mean, her job description and the job description of most of the people that hold her viewpoint is exactly that dichotomy. It's exactly that dichotomy. It's we got to hate on the place that gives us everything that we want. It's just like the what is it, the Trans for Palestine movement. It's a complete
Yeah,
dichotomy.
queers for Palestine, I
Queers,
think is what
queers
you're
for
referring
Palestine.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a complete cognitive dissonance, on steroids. Um, and the only place it could exist is here. The only place it could exist is here, because if it was there, they'd be thrown off of buildings.
yeah,
So the a whole a large section of our society today is based on the idea that reality is over here and what I say is over here, and the fact that they don't line up at all doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
right.
So to people that have, even if you're not hyper logical, even if you just have a passing familiarity with rational thinking capabilities, you look at that and say, well, this is stupid. It doesn't work out. It doesn't flow from what you say to what you do. But it doesn't matter, because that is the job that generates it generates the anger, and it generates the money, it generates the followers and the book sales and political power.
Queers for Palestine, though, for me is another example of it's gone from we are oppressed and we're the victims to we're going to support whatever group punishes the people we want punished.
Totally.
Again, it,
Oh yeah,
it it totally fits within that same paradigm
it
to me.
does. Well, and it's inevitable. It's inevitable that that happens. It's with whatever group it is, there's going to be somebody who is going to take that next step, because that next step is where you get power.
Right.
The punishment you don't get. So if you look at Martin Luther King Jr. and I have a dream speech, and I want to live in a society where my children are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. There's no power in that. There's nothing. All you got is equality. There's no power in
Yeah,
equality.
and it comes with a whole big load of personal responsibility.
Totally. Yeah, you got all sorts of undesirable things that come with it, like personal responsibility, and you also don't get any power from that. And so therefore the activist class is like, well, what's the point of that then? That just makes us equal. And we don't want to be equal. We need
Yeah,
to sell our books and get donations and lord
yeah,
it over you.
yeah. It's funny. One of the first episodes you and I did, we kind of landed on this thesis that there's only two stories in human, history, and one of those is our God has deemed us the righteous one, therefore we can do whatever we want to other people. And then the other one is we've been so wrong that whatever we do to you is justified.
Yeah.
And that was kind of off top of our heads kind of a conversation, but
Yeah.
that is turning out to be proven over and over and over
100%.
again.
Yeah, and the common thread is always power and money. Is always power and
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. So, okay. In other news, I don't know if you've been paying attention to these flock cameras.
No, huh?
Um, okay. So flock cameras are like they're similar to the like traffic stoplight cams. They're
Okay.
they're similar to that. There's a growing movement across the country because there's these flock cameras, I guess, are popping up all over the place where they're monitoring people basically 24/7. And what do
Wow.
you know? People don't like that.
No, not so
And
much.
so they're cutting them down. Here's I'm looking at here's one in geez, I have saved several of these. This one's in South Carolina. Police in South Carolina desperately asking the public for help to find the person responsible for cutting down two flock cameras on July 4th. Officials say vandalism of the cameras will not be tolerated. Anyone who knows something should turn them in. Um, Here's one in Houston, Texas. Police in Houston, Texas are asking for public's help and identify the mystery person who cut down two flock cameras there. Might be the same place. Here's another one in this one doesn't say where, but so these cameras are up and just like recording people 24/7. There's one gal who had a story where she had her cell phone, her cell phone on her lap face down. The camera took a picture and she got a ticket in the mail for having a cell phone in her car. It was unsafe.
Yeah, well, you can see why people would be a little unhappy about that. So they're called flock cameras. I've never actually. That's interesting because I've never heard that term before. But I can certainly see where people would be. I mean, I wouldn't be happy about that. I have what isn't it the Fourth Amendment? What amendment is it that I have the right to confront my accuser?
Yep.
And so,
it also prohibits the government from
unreasonable search and seizure.
Unreasonable search and seizure. Yeah, which that I would argue that a camera just randomly looking in your car for no reason is unreasonable search.
Yeah, there's no probable cause. Yeah, exactly.
Now, at the same time, World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab has filed a complaint to police after a listening device was found in his home in Geneva, Switzerland. Ironically, last year Schwab said, quote, "We have all got to submit to surveillance. If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear." Now, I fact checked this with Grok. The quote that they have here is paraphrasing. It's out of order. He said it. You have nothing to fear. If you have nothing to fear, you should have nothing to hide. So the quote is accurate, but it's not verbatim. I did fact check that though. Again, the elites, we all need to eat bugs. We all need to open ourselves up to surveillance, but they don't really mean we all. They really mean you.
Yeah, no, when that's always the way it is. That's the Gavin Newsom and the French Laundry during COVID and all of the and that's always the way it is. And that's always what's going to tick people off and get them to not, I mean, if they really believed it, if they would go along with it, that's one thing. But if they don't, if they're just proving themselves to be hypocrites, nobody wants to follow a hypocrite.
Yeah, so there's who's the economist, not Milton Friedman. He's like 99 years old, older black guy. What's his name?
Oh, Thomas Sowell?
Thomas Sowell. Okay, forgive me for not knowing his name. Of all people in the world, I should know his name.
Blasphemy.
So, yeah, absolutely. Somebody I truly do admire, but his name just escaped me for a second. He has these like 3 questions to challenge any progressive point of view, and you and I've covered those before, but I've started developing a new. It's not really a question; it's more of a statement, which is just you first. We should all eat bugs. Okay, no problem. You first. We should all have to get this vaccine. No problem. You first. We should get rid of guns. No problem. You first.
Right. I like it.
You lead by example, and if it works out when you do it, then I'm on board. But
also, I will. Yeah, I'll go along with that because the worst thing in the world is a hypocrite. The absolute worst thing in the world is a hypocrite. Nobody likes a hypocrite. So I'm right on board with you. Yeah, I'm right on board with you.
So, and then this is just kind of a funny thing, and then I'll kind of turn it over to you to. Oh, and by the way, on the flock along the flock camera lines, new safety rules for the EU. All new cars sold in the EU must now include an infrared camera system that monitors the driver's eyes and face while they're driving. This is a law that the EU passed, and I fact checked this one also because I was like, "There's no way they would do that."
Yeah.
Right? All cars starting in 2027 have to have an inside the vehicle camera on the driver to be sold in the EU.
Well, and so my question about that is this: the key question about that is this: is the system that's monitoring that and going to take some action on that self-contained, or does that information get broadcast out to some?
Great question. As the law is written now, it is prohibited for the information to be shared outside.
Okay.
But historically, that's always like phase 1.
Yeah, that's phase. Yeah, it's all of these things. It's the slippery slope is always the slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that would be the
the income
argument.
tax was imposed in I think 1913 or 1910, somewhere in there, and it
Yeah.
was only for the top 2%, Dave.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, yeah, I think I told you. Well, the little side note on that one, I think I told you, or I said it on the cast some weeks ago that I found my dad's 1952 tax return, and it was 2 pages. It was 1 page
Yeah,
front and back. Yeah, I mean, so the slippery slope is always the slippery slope, and so you could say on the faces of it, if AI is monitoring my eyes to make sure that I don't go asleep when I'm driving and it's self-contained, maybe. But when it gets broadcast out, well, my car right now, I have there's this, you probably have it in your car, the little coffee cup thing that if you drive too long, it starts to talk to you, my
yeah,
steering starts to shake and all this. The first time it happened, I'm like, I didn't even know it was there. I'm like, what's going on?
yeah.
But it's, to prevent you from going to sleep. I mean, so all of these things have a fine dividing line, and we're going to come up against more and more and more and more and more of those with AI, because AI is terribly smart, and it's going to be, how much of that good stuff that we get is going to ultimately cross the line, because it's all going to be good stuff to start with, but or at least most of it. But then it crosses the line to, I'm sharing this information outside of the car, or et cetera. So that's going to be one of the big civil liberties. I predict this will be one of the big civil liberties fights of the next 10 to 20 years.
Well, and as usual, I'm way more cynical than you are. My first thought with almost all this stuff now is you first. Okay, so
Yeah.
if you're a politician or a bureaucrat, policymaker, regulation maker, whatever, that whole cohort, and you believe this is important for the safety of the citizens to have
Yeah.
these kind of devices, all right. Can we imagine how this could be useful in the legislative process, in the rulemaking process, to have listening devices and cameras to let us know when things might be going askew? Like,
Yeah.
how many times do you meet with the lobbyists from that aerospace industry for and you're on the committee that oversees those things? How often are you meeting with your lobbyists, people giving you donations, things like that?
Right.
You know, uh, not just in the fundraising part and the lobbyist part, but also the actual rule making process.
Sure.
I gotta believe that, I don't know, listening devices and cameras be pretty useful there to protect the citizens from people making bonehead decisions.
Exactly
I
right.
don't ever hear conversation about that, Dave. Why do you think that
No,
is?
no, because I mean, you don't really ever hear the conversation about the whole purpose of the Constitution is not to grant the citizens rights, but to protect the citizens from the government. That's the whole
Right,
reason
right,
this
right, right.
this thing exists in the first place. We don't. I mean, around
Private
America,
citizen and transparent government, like that's completely inverse now. Like this
yeah,
whole, it's all out the window.
it's all out the window, and it gets back to power and money. It always gets back to power and money, and it gets back to power and money and laziness. I mean, so you get power and money by exploiting the laziness of the populace. I mean, at the end of the day, because if we if the informed populace took its responsibility, if we all take our responsibility seriously in holding our legislators to account, and holding all the levels of government to a certain standard, then they wouldn't be able to get away with all this. So at the end of the day, it does come back to us and our own apathy in letting things just get out of control.
Yeah, I would agree that apathy, indifference, all that, it's not affecting me. It's not in my backyard. The NIMBY thing is not in my backyard yet. All that stuff. I also do believe that they will push far enough where they wake everybody up.
Sure. That's a repeated pattern as well. The
Yeah,
repeated
yeah,
pattern is always that in the repeated pattern is the pattern of a teenager. A teenager will go a little bit further. Oh, I got away with it. I'll go a little bit further. Oh, I got away with it. I'll go a little bit further. And the sophisticated, nationally renowned legislator will do the exact same thing. Oh, I've got away with it. I'll push a little bit further. This time I'll take $1 million in bribes. This time I'll take
yeah.
10. I got away with it. So I can, human nature again is very predictable and is consistent, and is the thing that ends up righting the wrongs as well, because it does come back to bite us.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I didn't say this, but you may have seen it, and the number was pretty staggering. Did you see the number of trades Trump made around the time he declared the tariff, the Independence Day?
No,
It was in the thousands. It might have been in the tens of thousands. It
really.
was it was obscene how many trades were taken just days before he announced the tariffs, which
Right.
crashed everything.
Yep. Yep.
And then the number of trades taken days before he did the taco thing. And
Yeah.
it it was a jarring number. It might have been in the tens of thousands. I know it was at least 3,000. I know at least 3,000 trades were taken. It might have been in the tens of thousands. It was pretty jarring.
Oh,
All right. The last thing I'll mention, which is I just think it's kind of funny in a not funny kind of way. And I'll let you take it over with more consequential topics and my silly stuff. But um, Pepsi, you've heard of them.
oh yeah.
They did a post. I think this is on the 4th of July. But it was sometime in the last few days. Here's the Twitter post. Pepsi Wild Cherry is what happens when regular cherry stops asking permission.
Oh, geez.
That's
That's
the that's the that's the post.
that's a little bit edgy, shall we say?
Well, there's this new trend, like the Wendy's is kind of doing their thing where they're kind of agitating and they're kind of, poking people. I think
Yeah.
KFC might be doing some of that stuff too, which I think they're both owned by PepsiCo. Like KFC is for sure. I don't know about Wendy's, but
Yeah.
and of course they had to take that down and
Yeah.
apologize and delete it, all that kind of stuff.
Suspect
Um,
so.
but it's kind of it's just there's no norms anymore. Like
No.
it's either, and people have either the reaction you did or the reaction of like, well, 20 years ago that would have been no big deal. Like who cares? And
Yeah.
like let's get
Yeah.
back to the but there's no acceptable norms of any kind anymore. It's just a wild west. You do things
Yeah.
that if you do it wrong, you get your hand slapped and you have to retract it all.
Yeah, well, that is true. I think that's one of the things that also makes it hard to operate in society. If you don't have any norms
Yeah,
and there's nothing that you can predict the outcome of, if I do this, this is going to happen. I mean, one is a business, just take it down to a basic business perspective. If you don't have norms in society, you don't know you can't operate your business effectively because you have to be able to depend on outcomes from actions and not
yeah.
to mention politics or education or anything else. I mean,
Well,
that's
and you brought up Monica Lewinsky earlier. I mean, think about when that happened. What year was that? Like 95,
yeah,
97, somewhere in there. I don't know. Whatever it was. Um, I'm guessing Jay Leno probably made a joke about that within 2 days.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
And nobody was like put off by that. Like, well,
yeah,
yeah, like, this is what you do. You make fun of
right,
that stuff because they did a bonehead thing and like anyhow, we had norms. I'm not
right,
saying that we should absolutely do it that way. I'm just saying we all knew the rules of the game, and now
right.
the rules of the game are completely thrown out for just about everything. Like
Yeah,
we're just bouncing back and forth between getting your hand slapped for things that some make sense and some don't.
right. Well, and I think the other piece of that is that there are norms within buckets. So if you're in this bucket, here's your norms. If you're in this bucket, here's your norms. If you're in this bucket, here's your norms. And then the conflict comes when different buckets or tribes or groups they says to a different tribe or group or somebody in a different bucket, well, you need to be behaving according to these norms. They say, well, why would I do, I'm over here. These are my norms. These are not your norms. You need to leave me alone, and we have conflict as a result of that, because that's the other thing that results when you have a society where there's no shared values, where there's no shared norms, is you get conflict because
Yeah,
you're doing it wrong. No, you're doing it wrong. Well, there's no definition of wrong. There's no definition
yeah.
of right. There's no definition of wrong.
Yeah, I'm gonna cite the very wise Adam Carolla. He said this numerous times, which is we're heading to a world where we're gonna have only octagons and safe spaces. There'll be no in between. This camp will live in safe spaces, and they have their own rules and norms based on
Yeah,
living in a safe space. And this camp is gonna live in octagons, and they're gonna have their norms and rules, and there'll be no in between.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's probably true, and I think it's also true that there'll be probably a lot of other shapes too. I think there'll just be all these different rule sets, and you talk about tribalism now. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
future and tribalism is going to be disjointed in ways we can't even imagine just yet.
yeah. All right, Dave. Well, I covered all my silly stuff. Give us something more consequential. So you got the NATO summit, you got the Iran war kicking off again. By the way, my prediction on oil going up is paying off handsomely so far. So
Oh, what's oil at today?
there's good news on that front.
There you go. So your investment's going to.
And to be clear, it was a couple $100. It was not a meaningful amount of money, and
Yeah.
I was strictly betting on human nature that there's no way in the world these people can pull this off and not screw it up.
Yeah.
And so far, I'm up about 100%.
Yeah, and that's 100% true. I think there is no way that they can pull that off. I mean,
I know nothing about how oil works and the pricing of oil works. I know nothing about that stuff. It was strictly I'm betting against the chances that the Trump administration and the Iran administration will pull this off.
yeah. Well, that was yes. There's no way to argue against that bet. Yeah, there's no way to argue against that bet. I mean, so this week, so if we want to recap this week for Kenny G in the future, you have millions of people gathering in Tehran around, or I don't know how many, but it looked like, at least from the pictures, it looked like there was more people than a Trump rally. Let's just put it that way.
And just real quick, I think the math I heard on that was there's somewhere around 18% of people in Iran, true believers
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
Ayatollah, and that
yeah,
says like true like
yeah.
diehard believers. So that would
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah, so it does make sense. I mean, but it says a few things. So the things we know about Iran this week, the in contrast to what was said about Iran before, that they were, we basically killed everybody and they're leaderless and all of that. Well, they were leader enough to be able to pull off a major funeral for Ali Khamenei, and interesting, we and the Israelis didn't do anything about that. You want to decapitate the regime, you could have taken out most of the true believers in Tehran in one fell swoop, and they couldn't have done anything about it. But then, so you take that, so that's interesting. You take an overlay on that. Now, as you said, the war's back on again. We've been sinking their navy. We've been sinking their navy, Brian. Did you know that they still had a navy? It's mostly fast boats. But we
Yeah, their Navy and their Air Force. The way I heard it was their Navy's at the bottom of the sea.
Yeah,
That happened around day 10, I think, or
yeah,
maybe day
yeah.
20 somewhere. First few weeks, like they had no Navy left,
No navy.
unless you count the 2,500 speedboats.
They apparently have a good contract with like Baycraft or something. They've got lots of speedboats back. I think we sunk like 70 of them last night. So last night we did that. We took out a bunch of radar positions. Radar positions. We took out a bunch of, I think, like 60 some IRGC, 60 or 70 some IRGC outposts. Sounds like they're pretty well constituted. We took out a bunch of missiles. So, what did how does this correlate to what we were told, a few months back, 2 or 3 months back? So there's all of that. Now, the second thing is the boats that were attacked. One of the things that I'm sure is going to be lost to history is that there was 3 ships that were attacked. I think it was yesterday, oil tankers. Now, the way that they were sailing, if you know how the sort of the Persian Gulf is, there's a route that takes you close to Iran, and there's another route you want to, you get the bully over here. What do? You walk on the opposite side of the street. You don't want to be near the bully. So they're like, okay, we're going to go through the Oman route. We're going to go to the south through the Oman route. Maybe we'll be okay. Iran said, you can't go that way. You have to go our way. And so they attacked three of these ships and did some serious damage. And one of them, apparently, there was, at least I don't know what ended up happening with it, but earlier in the day I heard that it was an LNG boat that could still be on fire. That's not dangerous at all. I mean,
Whose flags are these ships flying under? I honestly don't know that.
One of them was Saudi Arabia. I don't know what the other two were. It wasn't.
Okay.
I think one of them might have been European. I'm not sure which.
So it wasn't us and it wasn't China, which would be the
No.
two big things that people would have to be. They would be mostly concerned about. Is you don't want to. You don't want to.
I know one of them was a Saudi boat.
Yeah, you don't want to poke a stick in the eye of either China or the U.S. in this particular situation, probably.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So apparently, they do have control over the strait. I mean, they do. And
Yeah.
there's tens of millions of gallons of fuel and oil and everything just stuck in the Persian Gulf that can't get out because Iran says no. So there's that. Now, the other thing that I find interesting about this situation is President Trump's right when he says that we're okay without oil. We're okay without a lot of Persian Gulf oil. We don't really need it here. We produce enough of our own shale oil, especially if the price goes up. We can, price shale oil is an interesting commodity because when if prices go really too low, then it's not economically viable to
Yeah.
produce. But whereas regular oil you pump out of the ground is. But when prices go up, like they probably are, they are, and they will. We got more oil, but the Europeans, so the French and the Germans, have had this plan for a while to demine the strait. They're significant powers. France and Germany they're not slouches. They're not insignificant powers.
Yeah.
And they've had this idea for 2 months that they're going to go down and do something about the strait, which affects them directly, but yet they don't. So, you connect that over to Trump and his frustration with NATO. And, there's plenty of stuff I'm critical about the president about, but he's pretty much right about the fecklessness of the European Union, at least the old Western powers in the European Union. The Eastern powers in the European Union are preparing for war. I mean, so
Yeah.
if you want to look at Germany and the Baltic states, the German army has gone into Lithuania, has put what is it, like 2 or 3 divisions or some, I don't remember the exact number, but they put a significant amount of effort into Lithuania. They're building a dragon's teeth line. I pay attention to the to European news because you can't get this in American news. All up and down the Baltics from the border in Russia to prevent tanks. So there is some significant preparation for war against Russia taking place in Eastern Europe and Germany right now. And so you can understand the president's frustration about Europe in the past, but not quite so much now because they are all stepping
Yeah.
up. Now, the other
Well, when you said Trump is right about this, the area I would push back on that, and I'm not saying he's 100% wrong, but the one place I would push back on that is, I'm going to caveat this by I don't have any way to determine what's true in the news and what's not.
nobody does.
I honestly don't. I don't have a
Yeah,
trusted, like, these people always tell the truth and these
right.
people never tell the truth. It's a soup of mixture of
Yeah,
truth
that's
and is gaslighting and just flat out lying and
yeah.
whatever. But one of the stories I remember hearing that didn't get nearly the coverage I thought it would, and I don't remember. I didn't save it. I don't have it memorized, but it was not from some. It wasn't from some TMZ kind of a thing. It
Yeah,
was like a legit, like what I would consider a pretty legit news source.
right.
When we decided to do this thing, this excursion in Iran,
Yes.
we didn't tell anybody in NATO, and we did not tell any of the GCC states. We
Mhm.
didn't tell anybody except Israel.
Right.
And so then we go do this thing. We poke the hornet's nest. It goes sideways, and then we cry it's BS that we're not getting the support we need. And
Sure.
they're like, "Well, you know what? You kind of did this on your own, dummy.
Yeah.
And had you told us, we probably would have supported you in a different way, but you didn't. You had to go in there gunslinging after your big
Sure.
win in Venezuela, and you had to show the world how tough you are. Don't come crying to us now that it went sideways on you."
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I agree with that. I agree with that. It was poorly managed. It was poorly handled. I think that well, and the interesting thing now I think is there's enough blame to go around in a lot of different ways. So the Europeans really I think I've heard it said that Trump is conducting public negotiations. So he said the only reason he went to the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey, was because of Erdogan, who's the president of Turkey, who
Yeah.
is got a lot of autocratic tendencies on his own. So he's a
Yeah.
pretty he is a consolidated power to himself to agree. Now he's getting older, so he's not going to be around forever. But the Turkey has also had a problematic history, shall we say, with alliances with Russia and other people in the past too. So Trump in his sort of Trumpian way is really forcing the Europeans to step up. There are a number of them that are now spending 5% of their GDP on
Fence.
defense.
Yeah.
And
Which,
yeah,
by the way, I think that's more appropriate than what they were doing in
totally.
his first term when he
Yeah,
went over there
totally.
and blasted them for spending less than 2%, if I remember
Right.
right.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that again, historically speaking, what Kenny G needs to know is yeah, the Europeans were basically funding their social programs on the back of the American taxpayer. I totally agree with the president on that. That's completely
Yep.
right because
Totally agree.
they were for years they've got these expensive social programs and they're underinvesting in their military and they expect us because of Article 5 and and I still believe that if there is a confrontation that we would step up to Europe. I 100% believe that. I think when the president is making these broad proclamations that he is doing it for the express purpose of getting the outcome that he is getting. He is getting the outcome that he wanted during his first term, with a number of these countries stepping up, with the exclusion, or the exception rather, of Spain, which is ruled by a commie and needs to be, they need to replace him and put somebody in power that's reasonable. But that's another story altogether.
Well, when you're the emperor of the world, Dave, we'll just snap our fingers and make it so.
Yeah, no, yeah, they haven't called me yet. I'm waiting. If the phone rings when we're on this, I will have to answer.
It should be any time. Well, as soon as this goes live on Saturday, it'll be right around then. I'm
Should.
pretty certain.
Hopefully so. They should give me a call and I could solve it all. Give me an afternoon. I'll have it all taken care
Yeah.
of. I'll go to pizza afterwards. It's not going to be a problem.
I mean, like, yeah, that whole notion of absolute power corrupts absolutely not you. You're the
No,
exception, just like Trump.
anybody
You're
else.
both the exception. You're both the two exceptions in the planet.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I think, but now here is something that Kenny G will know that I don't know, and that is if we make Europe as self-sufficient, they have more people and they've got a significant economy. They're a peer to us. They're not
Yeah,
way down here on the ladder. If we make them by forcing them to take care of their own house and their own continent, that powerful. Is it possible that that power could turn against us? And it very much is
absolutely.
possible for that power to turn against us. Historically speaking, it's quite likely, I think, that in the
Yeah,
next 30, 40 years, that we're going to have some kind of confrontations with Europe, and it's not going to be over Greenland or, that kind of thing. It's going to be
yeah,
more significant. So and the other thing that we do, the big story this week and the big, kerfuffle in Washington, D.C. is, do we sell F-35s to Turkey? Turkey again is an Islamic state. They want to be the chief Islamic state in the Middle East. They're right on they're bordering the northern Middle East. So they don't want Iran to be. They want to be the chief Islamic state because you got 1.4 billion Muslims, worldwide. That's a pretty good group to lead, right? I mean,
yeah,
there's a real danger that I think a lot of people, a lot of very smart people, Tom Cotton, Marco Rubio, Rubio wouldn't say anything, but a lot of very smart people would say it's dangerous to make Turkey that powerful because they could very well turn against us because they're not a Western power per se. Sure, they
yeah,
are Western-ish, but they are not Western like Great Britain is Western, like France is Western, like Germany is Western. So there's the kind of lines that are being drawn that will be very apparent in Kenny G's day and the series of
yeah.
problems that will occur between now and the next 30, 40 years. I think a lot of them probably won't occur for another 40 years or so until we're well into the next, set of turnings, could be very significant and come as a result of what we are building right now, because we're not building Japan and Germany. Post World War II, we
Right.
built Japan and Germany. We built us some nice friends. We built us some good
Yeah,
friends and
yeah,
powerful friends. This next
yeah.
go around, I'm not so convinced that that's what we're going to be building.
Well, it's kind of like having a teenager. Your job is to make them an adult, and they hopefully go out and make good decisions. Well, they become an adult, but that doesn't mean their decisions align with yours.
Exactly
And
right.
I agree totally that it was not appropriate and quote unquote fair for us to be funding all their social programs and all their defense, and like we took on that burden and they kind of just thumbed their nose at us. That I didn't like that. No
Yeah.
way I like that. Um, and I think we will win the battle of getting them self-sufficient, but I do not think we will win the war of having a self-sufficient partner ally
Yeah.
who's joined at the hip with us. when you get 550 million people who all of a sudden wake up and they're autonomous, what do they need us 330 million people for so much now? They don't. And collectively, they would largely be more powerful. And I'll throw this one wrinkle in there, though. That would require them staying united. And I think there's pretty good odds that that won't happen. So,
Yeah, that won't. No, see, here's my concern. That yeah, that will not. I can. Yeah, I don't want to guarantee anything about the future, but I can almost guarantee that that's not going to happen. The European
zero
Union,
chance Greece and Germany are going to be joined at the hip on things
right?
in 26 years. Come
Yeah,
on. I like that.
yeah.
I mean, not 0% chance, but the odds are not in their favor, I'd say.
Right. Northern Europe and Southern Europe. I mean, you can see the kind of the north-south dynamic. We've got that here in the
Sure.
United States to an extent, but you can really see the north-south dynamic in Europe being much more significant. And it's important to remember that Russia is a European power. Really, it is.
Right.
Peter the Great wanted to have the reason that St. Petersburg and Western Russia was built out like it was because he wanted the Russian Empire to be the greatest European empire, not kind of this separate thing. So there's a good chance of more alignment with Russia in some way in the next go. I mean, after Putin, what happens after Putin? Well, the Slavic mentality will still exist after Putin, and it's not the same. It's not the same as our mentality. It's a different kind of mentality. So you've got all of that pushing that's going on. So I really do see a fractionalized world where you have northern, southern powers, eastern, western powers, and I don't like the president's kowtowing to strongmen, to Putin or to Erdogan or to Xi. But there is a certain 21st, 22nd century logic to it because it's probably going to be more of the political norm in the next half century than it's been prior to World War since World War II and to now.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get away from that. I mean, if you're standing in line for concessions at a concert and somebody cuts in front of you and he weighs 117 pounds soaking wet, you just kind of push him out of your way and remind him, hey, son, the back of the line's over there. A guy cuts in front of you who's, 3.5% body fat, 248 pounds, looks like he probably knows how to throw hands. You probably
Right.
negotiate that guy a little more.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, and I think we're going to have an interesting reframing of the expectations of international relations in ways that we just can't even comprehend right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn because I'm optimistic and hopeful it'll be different. I don't like that we created Saddam Hussein and then went in to take Saddam Hussein out, and Noriega and ISIS and Al Qaeda. Like, go down the list of all these people. Like, we just put the guy in Syria. I think he used to run like Al Qaeda or ISIS or something like that. Like, that's the guy we wanted in power over the last guy. Like,
Right.
I don't know, Dave. Our track record's not super great with this kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to getting out of that mode. But I also don't think the next version will be any better because it's always people playing with very expensive toys that kill people, and it's probably gonna be a similar version. It'll just be different.
Yeah, it's inevitable, as we've discussed many times, it's inevitable that human nature will play itself out once again in different ways. But it'll still be that same basic, identifiable set of patterns that you can look back and say, oh yeah, Shalmaneser, oh yeah, Nebuchadnezzar, oh yeah, Pharaoh of Egypt, oh yeah, you go back to the Roman Empire and all these different places. We can lay on veneers of civilization, and we can do the wonderful things like our founders have done, which is an amazing thing our founders gave us. But still, there's that undercurrent that's always there that's going to drive it, called human nature, that's going to bring about selfishness and power, accreting power to oneself, and absolute power corrupting all of these different types of things will continue to play out just in new, novel, and colorful ways in the next go around.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think the notion that those who can will conquer, I don't think that's ever going to go away.
No. That's just, again, yeah, that is also that's the fundamental failure of the utopian leftist project too, is the idea that you can manipulate and perfect human nature. It's just not a possibility. It just doesn't exist, unless you re-engineer the human species, which maybe we'll have the ability to do. I don't know. But it's just not possible.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. Well, the Iran. I suspect in 18 months we're still going to be talking about Iran and
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 oil
I
prices
I
the Strait of
I,
Hormuz.
I do think that they are going to emerge from this much more powerful than they entered. I think that we have created something there that
Yeah,
probably hubris,
yeah. Oh, totally.
maybe miscalculation, but probably hubris
Yeah,
led us down a path to turn a fairly benign, thorn in our side into a machine that can absolutely turn places like the European Union against us because
yeah.
we inflicted pain upon them and they will know who to point the finger at.
Yep. Well, it's inevitable. I don't think they knew it before. I don't think they knew how powerful they were before. But now
Yeah.
they know. I had this discussion with somebody. They said, well, President Trump's brilliant because if they don't do what they want, he'll just bomb them to smithereens. And I said back to this conversation yesterday, I said back to them, yeah, he'll bomb them to smithereens, and that's exactly what they want. They want him
Yeah.
to bomb them to smithereens because they don't care. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's in their playbook. Their playbook is, yeah, bomb us to smithereens. We're still controlling the Gulf. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
can't.
It could be that they didn't have the awareness. It could also be they had the awareness and they didn't have the right trigger.
Yeah,
If they would have done this before somebody poked them in the eye, now
sure,
the world hates them.
sure,
Well, they're in a sweet spot now. No matter what happens, the world's going to hate us. Like
right.
they played it perfectly by just
Yeah,
being patient, and
absolutely.
we're impulsive and impatient. So they're just one could argue they're the older, wiser civilization, letting
Sure,
the teenager do dumb things and just wait long enough for them to do something
yeah,
stupid.
absolutely. No, I think that's really true. I do think that's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, as Dave said in the beginning, we're trying to explain to future generations what it's like living this moment. If you think there's anything we said, especially right or wrong, you can go to unsilentpodcast.com or Rumble has a great comment section. Until next time, this is Dave and Brian signing off.
See you next week.
Do you want to be unsilent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.